every week I felt like a maniac. I felt like Usopp from Syrup Village yelling, "The Holy Knights are coming! The Holy Knights are coming!" And I knew that one day that would be true. Eventually we have to meet them, right? Oda can't hide these guys forever. And here we have it, chapter 1134. They finally made their appearance. Well, technically, they made their appearance a long time ago, but we'll get to that here in a bit. So, welcome back in, you guys. We got chapter 1134 of One Piece here with us today. We're going to be breaking down the chapter, talking about it, and theorizing, and all that good stuff. So, buckle in, get ready, and let's start with the cover page. So, we got a color spread this time, celebrating the Frankie VA retiring. I think celebrating is the wrong word to use there, but this right here is in honor of him. He is getting up there in age, and he has a bunch of health issues as well. So, it makes sense that he is stepping down, and I do wonder who will be usurping his role as Frankie. Of course, he put in a lot of work, and One Piece is one of those products where you can never be mad that somebody is retiring. You know, Frankie here put in years and years of work. These One Piece voice actors, I bet they didn't know how long they would be tied to this role when they first picked up the job. Right? Like, even Oda himself, he keeps on saying, oh, you know, it's going to end in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. It's like 60% done. Oda's hit us with a lot of crazy estimations. And the series should have ended like 5 times by now if we listened to Oda. But it's still chugging along. We still have the entirety of the final saga to tackle. So, yeah, it makes sense that eventually we're going to see these voice actors step down. And if anything, we just got to appreciate the work they put in. But yeah, with that being said, you know, other than that, the color spread is just beautiful. We have Frankie in his giant robot form. He has a star on his forehead, and he also has the words, "We are eternal," written on his shoulder pad. Other than that, I couldn't really pick up any other small details that I wanted to talk about. So now, let's just turn our attention to the first page of the chapter. And wow, we got Luffy hitting us with a Yakuza pose, speaking in a manner we've never seen him speak in before. And he's like, "Hey, Saul, thank you for taking care of my underling Robin. You have my gratitude." And I'm like, yo, who is this guy? Is this the younger Straw Hat Luffy we're looking at here? Yeah, it's pretty funny. I mean, even the Straw Hat crew are laughing at Luffy. They're like, wait, where did he get this from? Where did he learn these words? This whole scene is actually so silly that Robin has to cut him off saying, hey, this is my Captain Luffy, by the way. I've seen people saying that this is reminiscent of when Ace wanted to properly thank Shanks for taking care of Luffy and saving his life back in the day, so he learned etiquette from Makino. Here, I wouldn't really know who Luffy learned this language from. Maybe Jinbei, because apparently Jinbei speaks in the same manner when he wanted to join the crew, but that is yet to be solidified. So now that the crew has properly met Saul, we get some Vegapunk stuff, right? Vegapunk walks up to Saul, or flies up to Saul, and says, hey, it's me, don't you recognize me? And Saul's like, wait, what? Who is this? Lilith introduces herself as Vegapunk, and she asks Jinbei to whip out what he was requested to bring over from Egghead. And it turns out it is a Vegapunk replica. Yes, that is right. Vegapunk is going to come back to life, or, you know, to life as we know it. So this is good on a couple of different fronts, in my opinion, because Jinbei had the silliest role on Egghead. I was laughing at Jinbei every single chapter because while the Gorosei were attacking, while Zoro was fighting Rob Lucci and all this was going down, Jinbei was moving boxes. Never made any sense to me. I mean, of course, I kind of theorized that, oh, maybe the boxes are important, but to our knowledge, we didn't know. Jinbei could have been bringing anything onto the Thousand Sunny, whether it be clothing, toiletries, what have you. So that is why I really wanted it to be technology or something that is impactful. And here we have it. He brought over the replica body of the Stella model. The model that visited Elbaf 20 years ago, which is huge. And I love this because it also covers up a small plot hole. Like, why would the world government let their most brilliant mind go to Elbaf, a land that is not affiliated with the world government? Never made any sense to me. But they say, oh, like they wouldn't let Vegapunk go, so he had to create a replica of himself to go in his stead. And I'm like, yo, that's amazing. I love this. And when it comes to Vegapunk being revived, you know, some people might not like the fact that he's coming back into the fold after everything that happened on Egghead, but this is the world's smartest mind we're talking about. We're talking about a genius. And not to mention, multiple characters have wondered what it's like for Vegapunk to truly die. Marcus Mars, he walked into the Vegapunk brain room and he said, yeah, what the hell is this? What constitutes death for this thing? And then even Vegapunk was wondering about that too. When he realized that York was the traitor and we had that whole flashback sequence, him, Shaka, and Pythagoras were like, yeah, so dying, right? Like, what's that about, right? So it makes sense that Vegapunk will live through in some manner. As long as Punk Records is around, I believe that Vegapunk will be around too. So now, on to the more controversial one, right? Kuma. Kuma was a side note here. You gotta admit it, right? Oh, Vegapunk's gonna be brought back. It'll take some years to build the lab for him. And I was like, okay, cool. And then they're like, by the way, what about my dad, right? Bonney looks at Lilith saying, hey, what about my dad? Can we bring him back? And Lilith just says, of course. Of course we can. Why not? Let's just bring him back. And I'm like, yo, how is that possible? So I can kind of see this, right? Because when Kuma, the real Kuma, came to Egghead Island and we saw that he was fighting Saint Saturn and doing all these crazy things, Vegapunk looked at Kuma and he said, oh, like, why is he here? Like, this is a mystery. Well, maybe the Buccaneers can actually, and then it got cut off, right? We didn't hear what Vegapunk was going to say. So maybe it had something to do with Kuma's memories. Maybe the Buccaneer memories are ingrained in their bodies or something like that, right? Kuma becoming a robot was never actually a problem. What effectively killed Kuma was when Saint Saturn ordered Vegapunk to erase his memories and consciousness. So if his memories or consciousness survived in some weird Buccaneer ability, then yeah, Kuma could come back to life. And I do wonder if we'll learn about how that's possible while we're here in Elbaf, or if we'll have like a time skip and it's like, hey, yeah, by the way, Kuma survived. Because Lilith does say that it will take a while to build a high quality lab that can bring back Vegapunk. And I'm assuming the same is true for Kuma as well, right? Lilith needs time here. So I wonder how long that will be. Are we talking about a month? Are we talking about 2 months? Are we talking about a year? A time skip? I don't know. I do think it would be really interesting, though, to see Vegapunk come back in the final war and meet Kizaru. Because Kizaru was heartbroken when Vegapunk died. So just imagine that reunion. That would be awkward, right? I mean, Kizaru could technically have his whole family back, right? Sentomaru's still alive. Vegapunk is effectively still alive. Kuma will be brought back to life. And Bonney's here. So yeah, like, Kizaru might have a happy ending if all things go well. Something I found pretty funny about the Vegapunk-Saul interaction is that Saul looks at Lilith and he's like, hey, why'd you pick a woman's body? And, you know, that is a good question. That is a question that's never really been answered, right? Like, we looked at Pythagoras and Shaka and all of them, and it's like, yeah, like, why not just have them look like you? Or, like, maybe even, like, a buffed-out version of you? Like, why'd you pick these robots and these women? Like, I feel like there might be some bigger reasoning behind it we'll learn later on, or this could just be, like, an SBS question. So, yeah, I'm excited for Saul. He is providing everything I wanted last chapter. Like I said, I don't mind that Saul's alive. I just wanted more from him. I wanted to see what he's been doing. I wanted to see character growth. I wanted to see backstory, and we're getting it here, in my opinion. Also, I almost forgot to mention this, but since Lilith wants to build a lab here in Elbaf, that means that we are dropping her off here. She's not going to come with us on the rest of our journey, which is pretty massive, right? People were thinking that Lilith would be the 10th Nakama, or Lilith would stick around till the final war, but no. It looks like Lilith will spend some time here in Elbaf aside from us. And with this comes the big question of, will Bonney stay here as well? Because while Kuma can get cured on this island, Bonney doesn't have to stay here during that whole process. Bonney could just travel with Sun God Nika. She could travel with her hero and then finish up the lap to Laugh-Tale. And then imagine that. She would come back to her father and say, hey, Dad, now it's time for me to tell you stories about Sun God Nika. I think that'd be really wholesome, but I mean, Bonney for Nakama, that's still like up in the air. But yeah, I would love to hear what you guys have to say about that. Do you think Bonney will travel with Luffy, or no, do you think she will stay here with her dad and wait for him to get cured? Also, I do gotta say, but one thing I really enjoy about Kuma potentially coming back to life later down the road is that he could fulfill his promise to Dragon. While it's not necessarily a promise, but he did say that he wants to fight with Dragon one last time. So if Kuma comes back, he could fulfill this. So now, moving on with the chapter, we meet a brand new character, Saul's assistant. We actually saw her last chapter, but she was like a background detail. But we actually get a name for her this time around, and her name is Ange. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what it is, but I get bad vibes from this character. I think she's good. Don't get me wrong. I think she's good. It's just like some weird like radars just blaring in my head. Like, I can't trust this person. Maybe it's because they don't have a neck. I think that's what it is. I think I just don't like people that don't have necks. And just, it's a baffling design for a giant. She's big, but she's also stumpy at the same time. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, Ange is here, and it's kind of cool because they're like, yeah, Saul Sensei, he's been practicing this gimmick for a while now, right? Even Saul's like, yeah, you know, I've had to yell on the beach a couple times, and that does go back and explain why 3 chapters ago, somebody said, oh, Saul's fallen and can't get up, right? It's most likely Ange who said that, which I think is kind of funny to think about, right? Like imagine somebody saying, hey, can you yell something for me? And I'll just like trip. But yeah. Ange is great. She's over here giving the Straw Hats the rundown of the Owl Library and this area, but of course, Luffy and Usopp run off right away, right? They don't want to waste time. They just want to see what Elbaf is all about. So while they're running off, Ange hits us with some really important side details, saying that the place where Zoro, Usopp, and Luffy are running off to is called the Walrus Academy. That's where the kids of Elbaf go to get educated. King Harold wanted this to be built 20 years ago. And it's like, okay, King Harold seems like a pretty upstanding guy. I can't believe that Loki murdered this man. But we'll get to that here in a minute, because I think there might be a little bit of a conspiracy going on regarding his death. So we cut over now, and the other Straw Hats are actually going to head to the Owl Library in the meanwhile. We see that Luffy, Zoro, and Usopp run into giant kids, and they're role-playing. They say, hey, humans, let's enslave them and kill them. Zoro has a really funny reaction where he's like, hey guys, should I just cut these kids down? Like, should I put them in the dirt? And Usopp's like, no, like, they're playing, Zoro, please don't kill the kids. And that is when we meet even more giant kids who tell these kids to stop playing around. Don't chase the humans, don't chase these tiny people. And it's like a whole back and forth, right? We're literally in a kindergarten, so it makes sense that all this bickering is going on. And that is when Usopp's like, hey, like, what are you guys learning here? You know, what are they teaching in that curriculum? Are you learning how to kill people? How to become warriors of the sea? And they're like, no, like, it's not trendy anymore, dude. Like, get with the times, old man. The giants of today's era are not about violence at all. You know, we're trying to learn. We're trying to be peaceful. We're trying to trade, man. King Harold is ushering in a new dawn, and we're riding it, brother. So I kind of went off the deep end with that. But yes, that is essentially what Ripley says. Ripley is the giant woman that the Straw Hats, Luffy, Usopp, and Zoro are on top of currently. They're bouncing on her boobs, and Ripley, my god. Damn. I mean, okay, that was a little bit too much. But Ripley's design, I'm not even joking. Like, I've seen the other giants. I've, you know, pulled out the binoculars. I've looked at the characters in the background during the feast panel. And I'm gonna tell you, not a lot of these designs actually moved me the way Ripley's has. My god, Ripley does have the best giant design by far. And yes, Loki's included. Loki's like the second best in my opinion. It kind of feels like he's trying too hard. But Ripley, between the tattoos, the hair, Ripley is queen. I'm not gonna lie. She actually made me give up my hatred for the giants. I love the giants now. They might actually be a part of my top 5 favorite races in One Piece now. Ripley isn't just carrying around those massive milkers, but she's also carrying the giant race by design, in my opinion. So that's enough gushing about Ripley's design. Let's talk about Ripley's character, because I do think she is really interesting. So in her introduction box, it says that she is the biology teacher here within Walrus Academy. So that distinction means something, right? Saul is the history teacher, and then we have Ripley as the biology teacher. I wonder if there's going to be other teachers that we meet later down the road. Like maybe there's a math teacher, a social studies teacher, a financial literacy teacher. The list could go on. And in an odd way, I'm kind of excited to meet the other teachers. Maybe it's just because Ripley's design is crazy, but yeah, I am excited to see more of what the Elbaf school has to offer. And also, I do wonder why it's called the Walrus Academy, because later on, I'm going to skip ahead for a second, but when we get to the Owl Library, we see that there's actually a giant owl in the background. And it's not Piper, right? It's not Garrett's owl. It's a brand new owl. So does that mean that there's a walrus hanging out in the Warrior Spring? Is there a walrus in a tank somewhere? I don't know. Like, how did they come up with this name? Because for owls, people said, oh, you know, owls are knowledgeable. They symbolize knowledge. So yeah, Owl Library makes sense. And I was like, okay, I'm on board with that. But what about the walrus though? Like, I haven't heard anything good about walruses in my life. Like, maybe I'm just uneducated in that department, but when I think of walruses, I just think about that really bad horror movie Tusk, and that left a horrible taste in my mouth. So yeah, I would love to hear your guys' theory as to why this is called the Walrus Academy out of everything. Like, they should have named it the King Harold Academy. He's the one who wanted this place to open in the first place. He's the one who probably funded it. Name it after King Harold, in my opinion. So from Ripley, we learn a little bit more about King Harold and what his ambitions were. He no longer wanted the giants of Elbaf to only be known as warriors of the sea. He also wanted them to be traders, merchants, and knowledgeable people. And I'm like, yo, this is probably why he was killed, right? Even she says that the elders of the village disagreed with him, right? They were stuck in their ways. They wanted war, but King Harold wanted books instead. And I'm like, yeah, that is something that would definitely get him killed. But it still doesn't explain why Loki would kill him, right? I feel like there's a disconnect there, which we'll get to here in a little bit when we get to the Mosa segment. But yeah, King Harold does, again, seem like an upstanding guy. But I do wonder what Usopp has to say about this, because Usopp, you know, if you look through the dialogue, he doesn't really say much. He just says, oh, King Harold? What do you mean? Like, what's going on here? Like, where are the warriors? Like, is Usopp disappointed by this revelation, or does Usopp think that this is for the best? Because Usopp wanted to come here to become a brave warrior of the sea. So how would he feel knowing that future generations of Elbaf no longer believe in that mindset? So yeah, I feel like Usopp might have some very mixed feelings about all of this, but he hasn't voiced it yet. So Ripley does say that she is from the last generation of warriors, which, you know, not only is she a baddie, but she's a baddie that could fight. I can't wait. I mean, hopefully no fighting comes here to this peaceful nation of Elbaf, but if a fight does break out, I'm gonna tell you right now, my eyes are gonna be on Ripley. Also, speaking of looking at Ripley, if you look at her chest and her shirt, it actually depicts a skull, which isn't that uncommon in a series about pirates, but it is a skull with horns. And it kind of reminds me of ancient giants and how all the ancient giants like Oars and Oars Jr. have horns. So I wonder if there might be some connection with Ripley and the ancient giants of Elbaf. So last things last, but Ripley also mentions that she wanted to see Luffy in his white form, which does make sense because she is a warrior of Elbaf. They've heard many stories about the sun god here. So yeah, I wonder if Luffy's just gonna whip it out and have some fun with it, because while it is a fighting form, it doesn't have to be, right? I'm sure Luffy could just go into his liberation mode and just have some fun with the kids. So moving on, we cut over to the Owl Library, and we learn that all the books of Ohara have survived and have made it here. And not just that, but they've been gigantified. Every book that walks through those doors gets gigantified. The book in Robin's pocket gets enlarged. And Saul says that right there is the mystery of the Owl Library. This has to be a devil fruit, right? Like, this is so specific. And here's the thing too. If it was a mystery, then I feel like Vegapunk-Lilith would be able to figure this out, right? Like, so the fact that they haven't yet, the fact that this is still an ongoing mystery or question, I do think this is the work of somebody here. I don't know if it's the owl, right? Maybe the owl has a big book fruit, or maybe there's somebody in hiding. Maybe there's a principal of this academy and they're the ones doing it, or another teacher that's doing it, right? I think there's a lot of interesting options here, and I do want to turn my attention to the next segment, which is all about Loki, because Loki is talking to a mystery character named Mosa. We don't know much about Mosa. We learn that he is currently in hiding, he's traumatized, and that right there is pretty much it. And the reason I want to turn my attention to Mosa is because back in One Piece film Z, we actually met a character named Bins. And I'm like, wait a minute, like Bins had the Mosa Mosa no Mi, and the Mosa Mosa no Mi allowed them to make vines grow. And apparently Mosa Mosa is a play or a sound effect that is made whenever plants do grow. And I'm like, okay, like if that's what that is, and we have a character here named Mosa, maybe Mosa is the character that is making these books larger. It would kind of fit with the whole thematic they got going on here. Of course, that doesn't have to be the case, but if I were to place my bet somewhere, I would say that that might be it. So, onto the Loki portion of the chapter though, we see that he is talking to this character and that he's actually never met Mosa in person before. They actually became friends by happenstance. I don't know how Mosa got a Denden Mushi here. Like, yes, it's a Denden Mushi that is winterproof or snowproof, but that doesn't explain how it made its way here. Did somebody drop it off? Did Mosa drop it from the tree and it just landed here? I don't know. There's a lot of questions regarding this character, but it does seem like they are hiding from something or someone. And they've most likely been hiding for a very long time, because Loki says that they are longtime friends. So it's like, yo, what is up with Mosa? Is Mosa the person that we saw off the coast of Elbaf? Personally, I don't think so. And the reason why, this might be shoddy reasoning, but it's because that character didn't seem like they were too afraid of letting their presence be known. They were casually walking through the underworld. They were casually off the coast of Elbaf saying, come on then. Like, that doesn't seem like something Mosa would say, right? It's very different vibes there. And not to mention, we saw that the person off the coast of Elbaf actually is a human, or we're assuming they're human, but they're human sized, right? For Mosa, this snail is massive. This snail is like the same size as Luffy if you compare it side by side. So I don't think that this is coming from a person. I don't think this is coming from the person off the coast of Elbaf. I think this is coming from another giant. So that is what I put my stocks in with Mosa right now. And as far as why they're hiding, I think they saw something that they were not supposed to see. And Loki backs it up. So apparently Mosa told Loki about the whole thing, and Loki said, hey, Mosa, if I were there in your place, I would have killed everyone. I would have massacred the entire field. I'm like, okay, who are we talking about here? Is Mosa talking about other giants? That could be the case, right? Loki did fight the entire giant race of Elbaf and lost, so maybe he's talking about the giants. But what if they're talking about the Holy Knights? So, of course, we have to kind of talk about the last parts of this chapter, and we'll get more to it later, but we come to find out that the Holy Knights exist on this island. They're just casually chilling in the castle. So maybe Mosa is caught up in some grand conspiracy. Maybe Mosa knows that the Holy Knights are here, or maybe they know that Loki is a good guy and maybe didn't kill King Harold. And that is why Mosa is currently in hiding. And that's why Loki is like, hey, if I was there, if I saw the Holy Knights here running amok, I would have killed him. That is where I'm at right now. That is my personal theory. And I'll admit, we don't exactly have a lot of information to go off of, so I'm sure we all have our own crazy theories about this. So I would love to hear what your guys' spin on this whole scenario is. But yes, I do think that Loki is a good person. I mean, even Mosa says it, right? Like, hey, Loki, you know, you say some pretty crazy things like killing people and massacring people, but in between those lines, you are very respectable. You seem really kind-hearted. And it goes back to Luffy, right? Luffy, every time he meets somebody, he can sense their nature. Luffy knows if a guy is bad just by being around him. So the fact that Luffy agreed to freeing Loki, it made me believe in Loki a little bit more. And I think this just further backs it up. And people are saying, oh, but Sai, you know, Loki said he wanted to kill Luffy once he gets unchained. But that right there just goes back to what Mosa says in this chapter. Yes, Loki says some pretty crazy things, but at the end of the day, he is kind-hearted. Of course, Loki gets kind of mad when Mosa says this, saying, yeah, like, I'm not going to be kind-hearted. Like, why did you say this to me? It seems like Loki might have been scarred by his kindness in the past. Maybe Loki was very trusting or very kind to others, and yet he didn't get any of that in return. So Loki says, shut up, Mosako. When I get freed from these chains, you better remember this. Kindness, you say, don't ever mention that again. And yeah, in my opinion, those are the words of somebody who's been burned by kindness. I believe that once we come to find out Loki's backstory, we will end up sympathizing with him. And I wouldn't be surprised if he was framed for King Harold's murder. Yeah, like I said, my whole thought train right now is that Mosa saw the real culprits of the murder, and Loki was like, yeah, if I was there, I would have stopped those guys. I would have killed them. I would have leveled the playing field. Which now brings us to the last parts of this chapter, where we cut over to the Elbaf Western Village Castle. We see the giants partying outside, and in the background, black lightning strikes. The Holy Knights have finally arrived. Magic circle and all. What the hell is going on? One thing to keep in mind is that the giants have no idea that this happened, right? If you look at the panels, you see Elbaf Village, black lightning hits the castle, giants are partying and eating food. Dory, Brogy, all of them have no idea that the fake Shanks and this girl are present. So there's a lot of questions with this. First up, how did they get here? Yes, we see a magic circle, but last time we had this, Saturn was off the coast of Egghead Island, right? Saturn spawned in with the magic circle, but he teleported a short distance, right? It's not like he teleported from Marie Joie all the way to Egghead. No. He was on a ship and then he hopped over to the island. It seemed like he had to be nearby to actually do this. And then when Saturn summoned the other Gorsei members, he put his hand on the ground to do that. And he also said, I will perform the summoning. But in this scenario, how'd they do this? Does this mean that the Holy Knights are off the coast of Elbaf? Like maybe there's a Holy Knight ship right outside? Or did somebody summon the Holy Knights into this castle? Maybe there's a third Holy Knight that put his hand down and performed the summoning. We don't know. We really don't know. And we don't even know why they're here. There's nobody in this castle to our knowledge. So in the background, when they get summoned and you see the cloaks, you can see the throne and it's empty. So what's going on? Like, there is no king of Elbaf. They said that earlier, right? Loki killed the king. Nobody took that place yet. So why are they here? Are they here to steal treasure? Are they here to steal food for Marie Joie? Because they are short on food, so maybe, they want giant food to bring back. That would be really silly. Sending fake Shanks and a Holy Knight over here to pick up food, kind of insane in my opinion. But, you guys go off. But yes, we got the Holy Knights after all these years. I say all these years, it's been like 2.5, maybe 3. But yes, we got Shanks, the imposter, and a girl with bandages, and you can also see some knight armor there as well. I am so happy. I am beside myself with joy. So when it comes to the Shanks imposter, the Shanks clone, the Shanks twin, whatever you want to call him, we knew this guy existed. From the very get, we knew this guy existed, right? We saw the silhouette that Dragon gave us. We had a guy with the sword, same haircut as Shanks. It was right there. And then we had the guy in the throne room, same sort of Shanks, same stature almost as well. And I was like, okay, like this could also be him. And then, of course, recently with the One Piece panel, we saw this guy with a sword. It's like, yeah, like that's got to be Shanks, right? Or at least a Shanks brother or a Shanks family member. That is where I was always at. I knew this guy existed somewhere. And then plus, Oda, he's redacted messages talking about Shanks having a brother as well. So there's a lot of things working for the evil Shanks theory. But never did I think that this guy would be 1-to-1 with Shanks. It is insane. This is the same guy from chapter 907. The same pose, same everything. And it's like, dude, Oda is crazy. Never did I think that this guy would look so similar to Shanks. I thought he'd at least have, different hair color or maybe a different hairstyle, right? Like Sanji and the Vinsmokes, they all have a different hairstyle. They all have different hair colors. This guy has red hair. Like, they're 1-to-1. And what's also insane is that I went back to episode 887, the episode where we see this fake Shanks talk to the Gorsei. And goddamn, it's the same voice actor. And that is one of the main reasons why I always thought that this was a different person, or I thought that's why Shanks was the one who was at the Reverie. Because I was like, okay, like, yeah, we don't see the scar, but like, they're identical, man. How did this happen? Is this a perfect twin brother, or is this a clone? I think that is the main question coming off of this chapter in regards to this character, right? How does this guy exist? So, going back to God Valley, people like to point out that the clothing, right? His clothing pattern that Shanks had was a sun and a moon. Maybe, Shanks is the sun and then this guy would be the moon in that scenario. I could definitely see that. Maybe it was like a matching pajama set. Another thing to also keep in mind, another thing that this brings into question is why was Shanks in a treasure chest? Were there other variants of Shanks in other treasure chests as well, right? Because Roger, that's how he found him. He robbed and pilfered God Valley and boom, Shanks was there. So maybe this guy was also in another treasure chest and Garling opened it up and got his son back. I don't know. There's so many mysteries about this. And also, I do like the clone theory, right? Outside of him being just another for Garland, I do think the clone theory does have some plausibility as well. Because we do know that Marie Joie has their scientists. Saturn whether people like him or not, he was a scientist. He was experimenting with devil fruits and powers. So there is a chance that maybe he cooked up another clone. You know, maybe the Mads team with Vegapunk cooked up a Shanks clone. Or maybe this isn't Vegapunk and this is all Garling. Because Garling right now is the godhead of scientific defense. At first, a lot of us kind of laughed at it, right? Like, oh, Garling? Like, he just took Saturn's title. Like, this guy has nothing to do with science. But what if that's not the case? What if Garling is a scientist and that's why Imu gave him that position? And Garling, on the side, was cooking up clones. There's a lot of different ways we can go with why this guy is a thing. But yeah, either way though, he does exist. He does look like Shanks. And now I'm kind of curious to see why Oda is hiding the other side of his face, right? For the other Holy Knight, we see her dead on. But for the Shanks twin, no, we don't see none of that. Oda's still hiding the other side of his face, which makes me curious. And I could see there being a couple of different routes with it. It's either one, he is a clone and he does have the scars, that would be crazy, or two, it is just a clean version of Shanks, right? No scar, has the arm and everything. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards, but I've also seen a third option where maybe this is the man with burn scars. Like, imagine we get the eye and it's burned like Prince Zuko out of Avatar. Shiryu did say that there's a good chance that the man marked by flames actually works for the world government. Well, here you go. Maybe it is this fake Shanks. And one more thing that kind of brings into question now is Kid. Kid in the anime, of course this is like anime canon, but Kid has this weird flash forward after he beats Shanks, right? In his mind, he's like, you know, Kaido, Big Mom, Shanks. All I need is one more poneglyph. We don't know what poneglyph he was talking about. Is he talking about the Zoe poneglyph or is he talking about the man marked by flames poneglyph? We have no idea. So what if Kid actually thought that Shanks had that poneglyph? What if he thinks that Shanks is the man marked by flames and he got these two guys mixed up? And that's why Kid has constantly been after Shanks. You know, with the Alliance, Kid wanted to go after Shanks and then he lost the arm. Like, Kid has had this weird pursuit of Shanks. But what if it's because he knew that that is the man marked by flames and it's actually this guy? I think there's a lot of things working with it. And then plus, if you look at their cloaks, we know that this cloak is black. Because in chapter 907, this is a black cloak. What if their ship is also black? Also, this could explain the whirlpools. The Gorosei had crazy powers, crazy transformations. If this guy also has magical powers and transformations, then yeah, he could be a guy that creates whirlpools. I think that's it. I think there is a very high chance that this is the man marked by flames. They are working for the world government, and this works well because it would force Luffy and the company to go after the Holy Knights, right? Right now, Luffy has no reason to fight Imu. Luffy has no reason to fight any of these guys. But if they had a poneglyph, then we'd have to go there. We'd have to start this giant war against the world. I think that is a solid route. Is it what I believe in right now? I would say I'm like 50% there. I do think I need a little bit more to fully believe this, but that is kind of where I'm at right now with this theory. So now, on to why these guys are here in Elbaf. This could tie back to what Stabs is what I'm going to call him. It could tie back to what Stabs said in chapter 907, right? They met with the Gorosei and said, hey, guys, I want to talk to you about a certain pirate. We don't know who that is, right? In the context of Shanks, it could be Blackbeard, it could be Luffy. But now that we know that this character is indeed a Holy Knight, that changes the conversation entirely, right? No longer would they be talking about Blackbeard or Luffy. They still could be, but I think the options are wider now. And I'm going to be honest, my theory right now, or what I'm believing in, is that they're actually here in Elbaf for that certain pirate. And I think that pirate is Mosa. So, we don't know much about Mosa, of course, we're going off of a Denden Mushi call, but Mosa witnessed something traumatizing. Something so traumatizing that they have not been around people in a long time. They are in hiding, like I said. But who are they hiding from? Maybe they're hiding from the Holy Knights. Maybe Mosa saw something or has something of theirs, and that is who they're here after. I could see that totally being a plot line, and not to mention, it would put them in the line of sight of Loki. Loki, of course, is a murderous monster right now. He wants to kill everybody once he's released. But if the Holy Knights were after Mosa, then Loki would have to fight for his cause. And maybe that's how we get Loki on our side, or we see the good of Loki, right? So if I were to expand on this Mosa theory, why would the Holy Knights want them? Well, it could be that Mosa is a God Valley survivor, or a survivor of another rabbit hunting tournament, right? Mosa said they witnessed something traumatic, and Loki said he would level the playing field and kill everybody there. Well, I think this would be fitting of a God Valley type of situation. Mosa could have survived that. Maybe they stole a treasure from that island, and that is why they're in hiding. Maybe that's why they don't want to show their face willy-nilly. I think there is some credibility there. Outside of that, where is Mosa hiding currently? Loki said, "Oh, you must be bored," insinuating that Mosa has not gone outside or talked to people in a long time. Well, bear with me, but I think Elbaf and One Piece as a whole in this last saga has had a lot of Harry Potter influence in it, right? We saw that color spread where the Straw Hats were dressed up as Harry Potter wizards. They were flying on brooms. Of course, that was a reader request, but Oda still drew it, right? Oda gets thousands of these every week, and he chose this one specifically. And not to mention, but they were also shown alongside a Western dragon, which is typically how Oda symbolizes the celestial dragons. So I think there could be something grander at play here, based off of this color spread. Maybe Oda is being influenced by Harry Potter. And I know that sounds really odd at first, but hear me out. Elbaf has an owl library, right? Owls, Harry Potter, Gryffindor, it all kind of falls together in a weird sense. And then not to mention, we have the mystery of the owl library where everything grows in size once it enters through the building. And when I mean everything, I mean just books really, but you guys get what I mean, right? There is some weird thing going on here. Is this the work of a devil fruit? Is this the work of a person? Is it the work of the owl? We don't know. But if it is the work of a person, maybe it's Mosa doing it. And Mosa could be hiding in this library. It could be like the Chamber of Secrets out of Harry Potter. And I do like this plot route a lot because it would mean that Stabs and the Holy Knight girl would have to make their way to the academy, and thus putting Saul and Elbaf's future in danger. And then the Straw Hats would have to stop him, or vice versa, and it could be a whole thing with this. And yeah, I really do like this Harry Potter route a lot, and it would also explain a small thing, but it would explain why nobody's able to realize that the Holy Knights are here, right? You see the giants still partying despite the black lightning in the background, and maybe it's because these are cloaks of invisibility. That is what Stabs and this woman are wearing, right? These black cloaks maybe conceal their presence or conceal their hockey. You can't use observation hockey to actually see where these guys are at, right? Because Luffy immediately noticed when Saturn landed on the island. He noticed when Kizaru landed on the island. Same with Zoro and Jinbei and Sanji. So I do think that it's either next chapter, the Straw Hats will know that this guy has made an appearance, or if they haven't, I think that these are cloaks that disable observation or, hide your presence to an extent. I think there's a lot here, man. I think this is super exciting. I think there's a crazy conspiracy theory going on here in Elbaf. Maybe these guys killed the king. Loki took the blame. Mosa saw the crime go down. Oh my god. This is reminding me of all the best aspects of Dressrosa, right? With King Riku. King Riku was manipulated by Doflamingo. He was an evil king, and then Dofi put him down and became a hero. It's kind of like that, but a little bit different, right? Where the Holy Knights are orchestrating everything, but they're not taking the glory. I really do think that no weather giants, maybe minus one or two bad ones, know that the Holy Knights are here. Which does make me wonder if the Holy Knights have a mole in the giants. Because this is a very noteworthy time to come by. Yes, there is no king of Elbaf right now, and that's probably why the throne room is empty, but there's also the giant party going on outside. Is this perfect timing from the Holy Knights, or did somebody tell them that, hey, the castle is going to be empty, we're all going to be outside, you guys can come in? I think that might be the case. And also, bringing back up the Elbaf silhouette, the guy off the coast, right? The come on then guy. Maybe he is also a Holy Knight that summoned these people here. I don't know. Like I said, there's way too many variables right now. Like last chapter, hey, party time, Saul? Hell yeah, Ohara. Like, it was simple. Simpler days were yesterday. Today, we got so many crazy plot points, and all I have to say is thank you, Oda. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart. Between Ripley making me love the Giants, to the Holy Knights. I loved this chapter. And, you know, I didn't talk too much about her yet. I'll talk about her right now. But the Holy Knight the Shanks twin came in with, my God, another great design. I'm easy to please. I like villains. I love good villains, good designs. The bandages, the eye, the hair, the bangs, the black cloak, the knight armor. I was like, yo, Oda's cooking, man. This is some good stuff. Yeah, if all the other Holy Knights have designs like this, we're going to be eating good. Yeah, 100%. I do wonder why she has the bandages on. It could just be a quirky thing, right? We also saw a Holy Knight that had a crazy hat and a long tongue. We saw another Holy Knight that had like a crazy bovine skull. We had another Holy Knight that had a gas mask. Like, this could just be this Holy Knight's quirk, or maybe underneath the bandages, it's going to be someone that we recognize. I've seen people joking about it, but they said, oh, it might be Kuina. I don't think it's Kuina, by the way, but I do wonder if they rip it off and they look familiar. Some people even said that it kind of reminds them of Lilith, you know, based on the eyes and based off the hair. Kind of Lilith-esque. I could kind of see it. There has been a theory that York looks eerily similar to the Man Meyer girl we saw at God Valley. And it's like, wait, like if Vegapunk based his satellite on that person, then yeah, maybe Vegapunk saw this person and based Lilith off of them. I could totally see that. And it would bring back Saul's question of, oh, why a woman? Why did Vegapunk pick a woman for this model? Maybe Vegapunk based all of the female models off of celestial dragons. I might be able to see that, but that is yet to be seen right now. Of course, all speculation. If we had colorings, that'd be different, right? The minute we get colorings of that hair, you know, if it's orange, maybe there's something here. Maybe this is Lilith, or the real Lilith. Oh, God. Oh, God. Elbaf, now that Stabs is here, can take so many different routes, man. Like, imagine Colin, for example. Colin really liked Shanks. Colin wanted to join Shanks' crew. Of course, Shanks told him no, but Colin looks up to him. Imagine Colin's reaction when he runs into the fake Shanks. I bet he'll be fooled for a minute. You know, whether or not Stabs looks identical to Shanks, whether he has the scar or the arm or whatever, anybody would be taken aback for at least a minute. Even Luffy would, right? Despite Luffy knowing that this might not be Shanks, he would have to question it for a second, and that question could be fatal. Stabs could go in for the kill. Stabs could attack somebody in the meanwhile. Oda, by introducing Stabs here, does put everybody in a vulnerable position. So another thing I do want to talk about real quick is Loki. I want to bring it back to him for just a brief moment, but Loki was trash-talking Shanks when Luffy was around. He called Shanks a coward. Of course, Loki did say he was joking, but I wonder if one of the reasons why he was open to joke about Shanks in that manner is because he knows about Stabs' existence. Maybe he knows that Stabs is a thing and that Stabs is a weakling, or maybe he doesn't like Stabs and that's why he decided to poke the bear. And then we could even go back to the Whitebeard scene where Whitebeard talked about the scar he got from, quote, him, right? Whenever he looks at Shanks, it reminds him of the scar. So it's like, yo, like at first we thought it was Garling, and that still makes a lot of sense, right? Garling was at God Valley, Whitebeard was at God Valley, it could be Garling. But now Oda opened up a different door entirely. It could be Stabs, since Stabs looks so similar to Shanks. Like, they're literally identical. And then speaking of identical, Bonney. We do not know who Bonnie's father is, but the one and only hint we have is back in an old SBS where Oda drew Bonney as a guy. And as a guy, Bonney did look kind of similar to Shanks, right? She had the scruff, she had that same face shape. And we do know that Oda made gender-bent law a thing. That was canon. You know, Q turned law into a female. So there is a chance that this could have been a hint as to who Bonnie's dad actually was. Shanks never made sense because obviously he wasn't a Murgeois at the time, and Shanks wouldn't be the type of guy that would do that to Ginny. But maybe Stabs would. Maybe Stabs here is Bonnie's real dad, and maybe that's why he decided to come here to pick up his daughter. Oh, God, there's so many crazy plot lines, man. Let me see here. I have a bunch of notes on the side about everything I wanted to talk about. We hit Mosa, Owl Library. Oh, yeah. I almost forgot about this small side note, but Frankie, while they're going to the Owl Library, Frankie says that he's actually more interested in the giant tree they're standing on top of, which makes sense because Frankie is the character that introduced us to Adamwood and the concept of the treasure tree Adam. I would love if all the Straw Hats just stay separated. Like, you know, Robin with Saul in the Owl Library, Luffy, Usopp, and Zoro with Ripley, and then we could have Bonney and Lilith doing their thing, and then Frankie and Jinbei check out the tree. Like, I really do think that Elbaf is gonna be a lot of fun, because up until this point, you know, like I said, I am a villain guy. No matter what series I read, I really just love villains. If a series has a good villain, I'm gonna enjoy it. And for Elbaf, the one thing they were missing is a compelling villain. Yes, we had Loki, but I'm a conspiracy theorist, man. I never thought that Loki was a bad guy. I always thought that he might have just been misunderstood. So Loki never really struck me as the big bad villain of Elbaf. So with that being the case, as we progressed through this arc, I was like, this might just be a Zoe type arc where we hang out, we chill, we party, and then we leave. But now that we got the Holy Knights here, bro, like I'm excited. And here's the thing too, right? So based off of Oda's silhouettes and positioning, I do think, and Bloodline, of course, I do think that this Shanks imposter Stabs is the new Holy Knight leader, right? It makes sense. You know, Garling was the former leader. He got promoted, boom, passed it down to his son, who was featured primarily in the dragon silhouettes. So I do think he's the leader. I don't think we're going to beat him right here. Maybe that's me being a little bit pessimistic, but the fact that he doesn't have the rest of his boys here with him, I mean, of course, he could probably just summon them, but because we don't have all the Holy Knights here, I don't think we're going to beat him quite yet. I think what we're going to do is we're going to get a taste of their power. And we might even just wake up the giants and show them that they're living in a conspiracy theory. I think that's where we're at right now. But yes, again, I want to apologize for rambling so much. The minute we hit Mosa and the Holy Knights, I just, you know, I was crazy, man. But that just goes to show how passionate I am about this chapter. I love this from start to finish. From I'm sorry with Ripley. From the Owl Library to the beach, to the Warrior Spring, Walrus Academy, to Ripley, Mosa, Loki, to the Holy Knights. My God, this chapter is filled with a lot of fun stuff. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I would love to hear all your thoughts down below. Of course, we will come back in a day or two, read through the comment section. So if you have a theory, if you want your comment read, please comment it down below. If you like the video, please consider liking. And yeah, that's about it. I have some side channels I want to plug as well. I have Psyduck, SYVDUCK, on YouTube and over on Twitch. I stream there almost every other night. And I also frequently post gaming content and just side content over there. So if you want to check me out minus One Piece, then yeah, please go there. And with that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next video. My name is Sai, and I'm signing out. Hope you guys have a great day, brother.